Journalism is like a fourth branch of government, not to be controlled at all by government. Its purpose is to inform the citizens and others about what's happening in the world, with a strong emphasis on any misdeeds committed by the government. Working properly, elected and appointed government officials would live in fear of having any misdeeds exposed. When no misdeeds are there to expose, journalists would help the population understand issues under debate. The current state of American journalism is pathetic. The most prominent mainstream journalists are bought and paid for by sinister forces. This horrible state was profoundly obvious on September 11th, 2001. This may have been the single most traumatic news day in United States history. The competing networks actually tried to cover the event, knowing most of America and much of the world were glued to their televisions trying to understand the horrifying events. Here's some of their coverage.
I said, how could a plane, even a 767 or 747 or whatever it might have been, how could it possibly go through this deal? I happen to think that they had not only a plane, but they had bombs that exploded almost simultaneously, because I just can't imagine anything being able to go through that wall.
As we were getting our gear on and making our way to the stairway, there was a heavy-duty explosion.
New York's bravest never had a chance.
We really never even got to that close to the building. The explosion blew and it knocked everybody over.
This area off, they were taking photographs and securing this area just prior to that huge explosion that we all heard.
It sounded like gunfire, you know, bang, 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 and then all of a sudden 3 big explosions.
To me, it sounded like an explosion. Then the building, the rolling sound sounded like the building collapsed.
It just went ba-boom. It was like a bomb went off, and it was like holy hell coming down them stairs. And then when we finally got to the bottom, they were coming out on a mezzanine level there, and another explosion.
One of the guys, he can tell you I'm okay, all right? Here, hold on. You want to call your mother or something?
All of a sudden, it was like bang, 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 like bullet shots. And then all of a sudden, 3 tremendous explosions. And everything started coming down.
The next day, any discussion of explosions vanished. The entire story was about terrorists hijacking jets. Building 7, that collapsed without being hit by jets, vanished from all news coverage. The accepted narrative led to a war on terror that lasted for nearly 2 decades and still impacts global politics today. What happened was people not trained as journalists saw things that did not fit the official government story. People like architects and engineers who saw the official story as impossible began to speak up. Other people, not on news payrolls, dug for the facts. At this point, so many facts have come out, the official story looks foolish. Yet the high-paid journalists on the major networks defend it as if they're in the Alamo. I actually have a master's degree in journalism. If you take journalism in high school, one of the first things you learn is the 5 W's. Who, what, when, where, and why. Apply these to 9/11, and the official narrative collapses like Building 7. Who collapsed Building 7? It was not Arab terrorists. What brought the building down? It was not a few furniture fires. Why were Building 7, or the others, brought down? There were people in the United States, Israel, and elsewhere who wanted a war on terror that took out the governments of several nations in the Middle East. Here's what former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak said on 9/11 itself.
We should cooperate with
Preemptively.
both preemptive and by diplomatic means, namely rogue states. There are 5 of them: Iran, Iraq, Libya, North Korea. These kind of states should be treated as rogue states.
Here's what we learned later.
I went downstairs, I was leaving the Pentagon, and an officer from the Joint Staff called me into his office and said, I want you to know, he said, "Sir, we're going to attack Iraq." And I said, "Why?" He said, "We don't know." He said, I said, "Well, did they tie Saddam to 9/11? He said, "No." He said, "But I guess they don't know what to do about terrorism, and so they think, but they can attack states, and they want to look strong, and so I guess they think if they take down a state, it will intimidate the terrorists." And then I came back to the Pentagon about 6 weeks later. I saw the same officer. I said, why haven't we attacked Iraq? We still going to attack Iraq?" He said, "Oh, sir," he says, "it's worse than that." He said, he pulled up a piece of paper off his desk. He said, "I just got this memo from the Secretary of Defense's office. It says we're going to attack and destroy the governments in 7 countries in 5 years. We're going to start with Iraq, and then we're going to move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran."
9/11 was not the only sign that American journalism is not true journalism. Look at how it reported on COVID-19. Multi-millionaire journalists behaved like cheerleaders for the vaccine industry. They denounced as global criminals anyone who sought to tell some of the actual truth. How many Americans even know that Israel killed 32 American sailors and injured over 100 more on the USS Liberty in 1967? Has anyone explained the 5 W's on that? It's become profoundly obvious John F. Kennedy was not killed by Lee Harvey Oswald acting alone. Should the American people care that its own CIA may have had a role in the assassination of a president they didn't like? Trust in the media is so low that few Americans think the government is giving us the truth about the death of Charlie Kirk. Viewership for major media outlets is way down, and viewership for Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, and other independent media hosts is high and rising. They bring on guests who tell of their deep investigation into everything from COVID vaccine deaths to the mass killings in Las Vegas in 2017. When journalists fail to do their actual job, those in government are free to commit massive crimes. When journalists do their job properly, the government knows an informed public has greater power. Bad journalism takes power away from the people. In a better world, people live in fear when they do something evil. In a wicked world, people live in fear when they oppose evil. The United States we know and love will succumb to tyranny if journalists continue to side with tyrants. Look what's happening in England. Do you want that here?